Will Notre Dame be worth the hype? I discussed it yesterday, but I was alone for that discussion. Now I've got Tyler Wojciak of Locked On Irish to discuss that very matter. So Josh Pate's got him number one in his whatever poll. You know, it's not the analytics space. He's got like 17 of them, I think. But is that an overreaction to Notre Dame's season last year? Really good team. Had a good season. Of course, we know how it ended in the fallout from all of that. I would not make them my preseason number one team. Would you?
That's a tough question to ask. I think it's so early on in the cycle. I mean, we're having this conversation in February, so I could probably pick apart any single team that you choose. But in this case, Notre Dame is the odds-on betting favorite. They're still the favorite on FanDuel. I do expect that to change probably at some point in the spring when some clips surface of Arch Manning tossing it downfield to Coleman and the Arch Manning hype train reaches a level similar to what we saw going into the 2025 season. So ultimately, I do not think Notre Dame is going to be the preseason number one team. I expect it to be Texas. It might be your Oregon Ducks as well with Dante Moore coming back. But look, I think when you look at everything that is required to win at the highest level in college football, Notre Dame absolutely has that. And, people are going to talk about Marcus Freeman coming back, CJ Carr. I get that. But I think what we learned from Indiana is you have to have a really experienced team. And Notre Dame is going to be one of the most experienced teams in the country next season, particularly on defense, where you have basically a lock to be a first-round pick in Leonard Moore at cornerback, Adon Schuler, Tate Johnson at safety make up one of the best tandems in the country. I think the linebacker unit is going to be elite as well. So the things that are going to draw the most attention are obviously important, but the experience factor is so critical for Notre Dame. They're going to be more experienced they were in 2024 when they made it to the national championship. So even though I don't necessarily love all the hype that they're getting, I do understand it.
Is it just that fan in you that goes, no, stop talking about my team. Please don't put this level of expectation or hope into this part of the country because we know how it goes. Is that your biggest reservation? Or is there something about the roster that makes you go, I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome this, or I have a question about that?
I have questions about the roster, which I would expect every team to have at this point in the year. Like, they're not proven at every single position. Like, I think CJ Carr is going to be great. He was really good as a redshirt freshman, but there's a difference between being a really good redshirt freshman and being capable of leading a team to a national championship. So I have questions, but I think that they have answers for everything. Now, we'll see how it all plays out. But I just think, the fan in me, I don't like being the hunted. I'd rather be the hunter, if that makes sense in this scenario. And just, with the discourse around Notre Dame ever since the playoff snub, I think people have just been itching to find more reasons to hate on them. And look, I understand it to some degree. There are some things where I'm like, okay, I can understand why, some people might not like that. I really don't understand why people got so upset about the bowl opt-out, but that's not what we are here to discuss today. So I think what's going to happen is after everything that we just went through over the past month, people are going to see Notre Dame at number one, and they're just going to freak out. They're going to try to pile on and act like even more egregious. So maybe on one hand, it could end up being all the more satisfactory if Notre Dame ends up winning the national championship, and then I have all these receipts that I can go back to later and laugh at. Or it's just more fuel to the fire, and it's going to be a rough, disappointing year for Notre Dame. I'm not necessarily an optimistic person. I think anyone who knows me would say that. So I'm a little bit hesitant to be too optimistic about this team. But, man, if you look at it, the roster's loaded, the staff is loaded, the schedule's easy. So everything feels like it's falling into place for the Irish.
That schedule, by the way, doesn't include USC, which is...
You know what? It doesn't include USC, but in 2026, who's a tougher game? USC on the road or BYU on the road?
Oh, I wasn't prepared for that question.
Because that's who Notre Dame replaced USC with.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like them to have both when you look at the rest of their schedule.
Totally agree.
USC on... So BYU is a tougher environment.
Correct. It's also earlier in the season.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. I think those two teams are pretty similar going into next year. I think they are both squarely in the college football playoff discussion as they were this past season. They both came up a little bit short. BYU obviously was much closer in that regard. They both return their quarterbacks. They both return their head coaches. They both have lost a key coordinator from a year ago, which both happen to be the defensive coordinators. I don't know. I don't look at that time. You just came on here and stumped me with that. I don't know.
I'm also going to give you something. Have we talked about Notre Dame and Miami before? How I think that's going to be number 1 versus number 2?
No.
So for as much heat,
let's go.
For as much heat as Notre Dame gets about the schedule, and look, I think a lot of that is fair. Now, we can get into the blame game. Is it Notre Dame's fault that Wisconsin has fallen off? I mean, when they scheduled that game, Wisconsin was coming off like an 11-2 season. Now, this was pre-COVID, right? Because they've been trying to play this game at Lambeau. It's going to be cool. It's going to be an awesome environment. Unfortunately, Wisconsin has really fallen off under Luke Fickell, which is not something I ever would have anticipated once he was hired there. FanDuel has Notre Dame at minus 19.5, which is insane. But I actually think Wisconsin will be improved this year. I think Michigan State. But
wait, hold on. Quick pause. The number is what?
19.5 today in February. The early look ahead lines. It's that's steep. I might take Wisconsin.
I think I would take Wisconsin.
It's a lot of points.
I don't know. They've been rough.
They did just go 4-8 last year. But for as much heat as Notre Dame gets about the schedule, which I agree with for the most part, take a look at Miami's schedule. Coming off a national title appearance. And to their defense, it is not entirely their fault, right? Because the ACC kind of determines who they play. But Notre Dame gets a lot of heat. I think Miami should be getting some heat as well. But what I want you to do is I want you to go through this, and we can do this together. At Stanford, I think Miami's going to get that one. Mm-hmm. Florida A&M at home. Yeah. I like the Hurricanes in a tight one.
At Wake Forest is a sneaky tough game.
Maybe. Central Michigan at home.
Yeah.
At Clemson, who knows what Clemson is going to be, but I would say that's probably going to be a win for Miami, even though it's on the road. Mm-hmm. Florida State at home. Pittsburgh at home. At North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Safe to say Miami's probably going to be undefeated, right? Going into Saturday, November 7th.
Here's the thing. Instinctually, you're correct.
Obviously college football could happen.
This is Mario Cristobal, man.
True.
He just was he was one drive from the national championship in the same year that he lost to SMU and Louisville.
The Louisville loss and what Beck did that night is just more difficult to understand by the day.
Yeah, but truly insane.
I hear your point, but they're going to be favored probably by double digits in every single game except maybe Clemson.
Yeah.
So for the sake of this argument, let's say they're undefeated going into November 7th. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame, theoretically, should also be undefeated or one loss at most with BYU. There is a real chance the rematch between Notre Dame and Miami after everything we just went through in 2025 could be number 1 versus number 2. Because they have the easiest schedules. Texas, Ohio State, they play each other. A lot of the other teams who are going to be at the top have tougher schedules. So Notre Dame is going to have an easy schedule. Yes. They are the preseason national championship favorite as we sit here on November 2nd. Yes. But if it were really February 2nd, yeah. If it were really that easy, they're not playing 1v2 in early November, probably right after the first college football playoff rankings get released. So, that could be something special in South Bend. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be at that game. I hope it is -2. I hope it's a blizzard.
I actually think Miami is well equipped to play in that sort of environment. But I tell you the Miami game I'm most excited for, it's the following week at home. Darian Mensah playing against the team that he just bolted. Oh, it's popcorn time.
Yeah, that'll be fun in the pregame, and then Miami will go up like 21-3 in the second quarter, and it'll be like, that story.
Never over. Never over till it's over. Last time Duke was in that building, they had an 11-point lead in the third quarter. I believe they lost by 21. They got Cam warded. That's what happened in that game. So let me wrap with this on the Notre Dame front. What is your biggest question? Because for me, it's running back. You lose probably the best tandem in all of college football last year. Young quarterback's best friend is his run game. I'm a big CJ Carr fan. But, man, no Jeremiah Love, no Jadarian Price. You can't just one-to-one replace those guys, right?
No, you can't. I think the offense is going to change. I think Mike Denbrock has wanted it to change. When he brought in CJ Carr, Notre Dame started to take a lot more deep passes. I think Carr finished like second or third in yards per attempt last season. So they really like to run it, and then chuck it downfield to Malachi Fields or Jordan Faison. I think my biggest question about the team pertains to the offense. I'm not worried about running back. Aeneas Williams was their RB3, and in 2024, when Jeremiah Love was dealing with that injury throughout the playoffs and Jadarian Price hadn't really taken off yet, Aeneas Williams was getting carries and touches in like very important moments during the college football playoff. He had a couple nice runs against Indiana. He had a huge catch out of the backfield. He ran a wheel route against Penn State in the college football playoff semifinal. And Notre Dame's old running backs coach, Dylan McCullough, loved him. And while some Notre Dame fans were criticizing him for putting a true freshman on the field when they had Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price in the same room, when he was out there, he made plays. This year, he barely played other than garbage time because Notre Dame brought in a new running backs coach who said, I'm never taking Love or Price off the field unless we're up by 40. Again, I understand it. I think he's been waiting his turn. I think he'll shine. My biggest question is, who is going to be the player on offense that is truly elite? Who is the player that can beat any coverage that the defense throws? It could be a wide receiver. It could be Jordan Faison. Maybe it's one of the two Ohio State transfers. I don't know. Maybe it's Aeneas Williams. Maybe it's Noah James. If you are going to make it very far in the college football playoff, you need difference makers on offense. I don't know who that's going to be right now. I'm not saying one won't present themselves as the season goes on. I just don't know who it is. But going into last season, everyone knew it's going to be Love. But going into 2024, people had high expectations for Jeremiah Love. I don't think anyone predicted he would be what he ended up becoming that season. So we're going to have to find out and see. But look, we have a lot of time here for those things to sort of figure themselves out in spring practice, summer, and then eventually training camp.
Spring practice can't get here soon enough. Tyler Wojciak, Locked On Irish, great as always. Ole Miss is crushing it.